It says host and join yet, but I'm the host, aren't I?
I thought so.
I can't even share things. Oh
Um,
God.
did you follow the first link they sent us or the second?
What was the second one?
Give me a second. Second one, Skillshare link. Hi, Karen, Megan.
Yeah,
Wednesday 12.
I have
Yeah,
that. There's a host key, but I don't know where to put it.
yeah, it's weird.
Here, one sec. I'll try again. Hmm. Okay, do you know how to use the host key? Do
What'd you say, sorry?
you know how to put the host key in? Like how they said it. There was a host key.
Um, try going underneath participant and click reclaim host role if that works for you.
Oh, it doesn't say anything about that.
Okay, let's see if I can get this to work. Just give me 10 seconds, sorry.
Just bear with us for a minute. We're just trying to get the screen to share.
Okay, I think we're operational. All right, so let's see if I can figure out how to actually share the screen now.
I can do it if you want to. If you want to swap it over to me, it doesn't matter.
Can I? Okay. Supporting. I don't know why this won't work.
Are you trying to switch me to host? Is that what you're doing? You're trying to put it up.
I'm trying to either put it up or switch you to host, one of the two. Audio and video.
Oh, I think I can do it.
That would be amazing.
I think I am now. Okay, I'm good. It says you are now the presenter.
Perfect.
Let's see. Okay.
Amazing. Wonderful news.
Okay. Can we see this? Yeah.
I don't know if you can put it in the chat. I can. I don't know if either of
Okay.
you can either, but
Yeah, if you want to write in the chat, and Kira will see that if you can see the screen and you can hear us clearly, be great. You're good. Yeah,
perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, amazing. Okay, so I
well,
guess we'll get started. Are you good, Megan?
Yeah, I'm great.
Perfect. Okay, so hi, folks, and welcome to Being an Empath, strategies and tips for people who find themselves being an empath. My name is Kira Kyo. I am a fifth-year Bachelor of Arts student studying French and Geography, and I am currently the head of events with Mun Minds.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Megan Kylie, and I'm a first-year master's student in the Master of Science program studying cardiovascular science, and I'm a recent graduate of MUN with my Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry. And currently I am the graduates representative for MUN Minds. I'm looking forward to talking to you about being an empath and what that means, and as well as tips to improve your daily life as an empath.
Okay, perfect. So first off, we'd like to define what being an empath means. One definition for the term empath is a highly sensitive individual who has a keen ability to sense what people around them are thinking and feeling. Psychologists may use the term empath to describe a person who experiences a great deal of empathy, often to the point of taking on the pain of others at their own expense.
So just some general characteristics of an empath. You might find some of them are very similar to yourself. So great friends, great listeners, which relates to being always there for your friends and loved ones in a time of need, always being the person they go to. A tendency to take on problems of others as their own. So when people come to you for help and advice, you kind of take those in as like your own feelings and your own problems. Have a hard time setting boundaries and saying no. Even that is if asked, you still kind of can't seem to say no. And you may feel drained after spending too much time around people and you have a desire to have quiet, alone time to recharge. So what being an empath means to me, is only during my second year of university that I really recognized what was an empath and how I was an empath. And I always have been the person that my friends have gone to for advice and for help, and I've always enjoyed being that person, and I continue to be to this day. I think the most important part of learning more about being an empath for me was to kind of understand how it affected me and to be able to recognize when, you're feeling overwhelmed with your emotions and feeling drained. And I think that like it's very positive to appreciate that and understand more about that because we want to really help, but we also feel like when we're helping people, we're taking all those negative emotions in from them as well. And you don't realize that taking all their stress and emotions in is taking them as your own. So once you see this happening, you can make changes and be more aware of it. So being more aware of it's the most powerful thing because with help and tools, you can become like better yourself and also be able to still help everyone. So that's what I found for myself.
Personally, I've kind of always known I was an empath, I think, or at least someone who was incredibly sensitive. Like Megan, I was always the friend that people went to when they needed literally anything. And I honestly kind of loved that about myself. However, it took way too long for me to realize that it was also negatively impacting me and my mental health. I still love to be there for my friends, and I still am as much as humanly possible, but I now know that in order to be the best support for them, I also have to make sure that I'm taking care of myself in the process. It's kind of a weird incentive, but honestly, it works for me and helps ensure that I actually prioritize my own mental health. Yeah. Okay, so we have a little self-test kind of thing. You can either use a pen and paper, the note section in your phone, anything really. So it's a little self-test to see if you maybe are a highly sensitive person. It's something that we found in a book called The Highly Sensitive Person by Elaine and Aaron. Um, it was introduced to me personally at a really crucial time in my life, and as it gave me a sense of comfort in being a sensitive person, because not a lot of people I knew shared these characteristics and like these feelings that I was feeling. Um, it's just a little true or false test, about 20 questions long, and generally, if you say true to 12 or more, you are highly sensitive. However, these tests are never that clear, psychologically speaking, and if you identify deeply with one or two of the questions you answered yes to, you may still be highly sensitive. It's all very case dependent. So, yeah, go ahead and take a few minutes to read the questions and see if any of it resonates with you.
Perfect. So if we'll give you a few minutes here if you want to go through them. Feel free to share any thoughts or opinions on it afterwards if you'd like. And just after you're done, you can either just write in the chat box or tell us you finished.
Sorry, Megan, I just saw your message. Did you
Yeah,
finish
we're
up the
all good.
hosting? Okay, wait, I don't
We
know.
figured it. Yeah, we figured it out.
I'm gonna make
We're
you
all
host
good.
again because I joined, so that could have ruined it.
Oh, yeah. No, what? I think it's good. Yep. No, we're still good. We figured it out after.
Okay,
Thank
perfect.
you.
No problem. Okay, sorry. Bye.
Yeah, I also thought it was a really accurate questionnaire. Yeah, like I said, I was in high school when I found it. It was introduced to me by my voice teacher. Um, and
Yeah.
yeah, I never thought anything of it really, but it really is pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was interesting for me even too. I've only heard of this from us talking and her and Kira showing me, but whenever I was going through myself, it was interesting to see how many like or like either spot on or you just don't even think about sometimes as like those being specific traits to being highly sensitive. So it is really interesting to realize why you feel the ways you do.
Yeah, and if you did want to know the name of the book or anything, like what it looks like, kind of deal, you can just put it in the chat. Let us know. I mean, the citation's there anyways, but if you also want to screenshot the test, that's fine with me at least.
Yeah. Yeah, if you guys want to share anything or if we're all good, we can continue on. But I'm glad that you guys felt that
18.
useful.
12:30. Yeah, I also agree with you with 18. So these questions are they're weirdly specific, but them as like one on each question itself can be like pretty broad. When you put all of them together, it really does kind of congregate to create this kind of it fits what I know at least and what I'm familiar with as an I self-declared empath.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
So
awesome.
if everyone we all good? Yes, okay. So um so the difference between being an empath and a highly sensitive person. Um like I said, I first heard the term of being like a highly sensitive person when I was in high school. Um and when it was introduced to me, I found a lot of comfort in the term because growing up, I received a lot of flack from my family for being too sensitive. I never thought it was a bad thing, but until they started giving me that flack and I started to associate being this hypersensitive person, this highly sensitive person, as a negative characteristic that I had. Eventually, largely through that book that I read, I started to realize that it wasn't any bad thing and started to appreciate the fact that I was sensitive rather than seeing it as, like I said, a negative thing about me. Now I realize that I'm more of an empath than a highly sensitive person, but at the time I still found a lot of comfort in being in identifying as a highly sensitive person. So empaths generally take in all the energy from those around them, whereas a highly sensitive person normally does not. That's one point that really stood out to me because when my friends or family are stressed or anxious, I feel it in my heart. And I sometimes now I have to physically remove myself from the situation because otherwise it causes me physical pain. Um, Speaking of, empaths also have a hard time separating the pain of others from their own feelings. And empaths can be introverted or extroverted, while highly sensitive people are typically introverts, although most empaths are, once again, introverts. Yeah.
So these are just some general triggers and situations of discomfort for an empath that can make them feel uncomfortable or cause them to feel overwhelmed in their emotions. So these are including large crowds, like arguments, being in arguments or being around arguments, like Kira was saying, like even if you're around a bad situation or arguments with other people going on, it can definitely affect you. Feeling rushed and not having enough alone time, and excessive socializing, which would be relating to the not enough alone time. Kind of as empaths need to rejuvenate by having your like alone time and your, downtime, and stress, especially for sure. Whenever there's stressful situations, whether they're with yourself, with other people in your life, and you're being associated with them or like around them or dealing with them yourself, that's definitely triggered.
Yeah, I just like a quick comment on a comment. Yeah, it really is feeling in your heart, and it is super, super heavy. And it's just generally nice to talk to people who also identify as such, because otherwise it can feel kind of isolating knowing that you take on everything, but the other people around you might not necessarily, and they don't really understand why you're feeling the stress that they're feeling.
Yeah, and
Um,
also I think too, like with the point on that, we'll talk to you obviously a little bit later about more tips, but it's like one of those things, not everyone feels that way. And your people in your life might not realize that you feel that way when they tell you your problems too, which is another interesting thing that, people are going to you because you're probably super supportive and a very good person to give advice and get, help people through things, but they probably don't recognize that you're literally feeling what they're feeling yourself. So it's interesting.
yeah, and it is a lot heavier than being sensitive. It's a lot more intense than that.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to it, and people generally, in my experience, um, perceive it as being sensitive, but it's not just sensitive. It's heavier. It's harder.
Mhm.
But yeah, speaking of empath burnout, what do we mean by this? Well, people can experience burnout from overworking and extreme stress, which leaves them feeling exhausted and lacking motivation and self worth. That being said, the situations and triggers that can cause empath burnout look a little different than regular burnout. Burnout for empaths can occur from overstimulation, excessive exposure to emotionally draining environments or the news and constant conversations, and also overexposure to other people's problems, which we generally love to take on, apparently. Um, in these cases, the empath either absorbed too much of other people's feelings, which is super, super common for empaths, or they became overstimulated to the point where they are physically and mentally exhausted. If you are an empath, some of these situations might look a little familiar to you. For example, you feel completely drained after trying to help a friend with their life problems. Um, your emotions might get the better of you after being in an environment filled with grieving people, or maybe you feel exhausted after spending a long time in an overstimulating environment, such as a part of your sports game. Luckily, though, with the right tools, you can create a more calm, positive space for your mind.
Perfect. So yeah, so now we have some tips we wanted to talk to you about for being an empath and dealing with all these triggers and emotions and situations that you're gonna occur or see yourself in because there's no way really around that. And our first one is taking time for you. So, this sounds a lot easier said than done. And obviously, with everyone's busy schedules, it's not necessarily something you can do all the time, but it's definitely super important to, improve that and make sure you're like consciously putting it into your routine. So, empaths need to take time to recharge daily. If they don't, they will or can experience the sensory overload and potential physical and emotional burnout. Um, it is extremely important to schedule time for yourself every day that is just for you and no one else. Even if this is only an hour or half hour some days, this can be used to reduce the stress you're feeling and help reboot your brain to encourage productivity. By taking this time for yourself, you can significantly reduce your stress levels, especially as a busy university student. Without this time, we are more likely to feel exhausted and run down, and it can increase the likelihood of burnout. Being a busy student with coursework, extracurricular activities, maybe volunteering, work, other responsibilities, it's easy to feel like your brain is overwhelmed. This is another reason why it is super important to take time for you and just slow down for a minute. By constantly having your mind running with a large list of tasks and things to get done, it can make it harder to prioritize what needs to be done, and that includes some time for you. So allotting this time allows your brain to reboot and reset for whatever tasks you have at hand. You will even find you're more productive and get actually better work done from this. Time for yourself can allow your brain to relax and reset, and this will bring you peace and joy, as you are not always going to be constant under pressure if you allow yourself this time. This can also help you improve your concentration and problem solving skills. For me, when I have too much on my brain, I find it a lot harder to focus and to get work done. I do tend to put myself in this situation where I, take on too many things or say yes to everything because I don't want to say no. But I feel like you're always, as a university student, learn the hard way in this. Like you have to say no sometimes because you end up being less productive because your brain can't handle this much. Like you need to have a balance. So if you allow yourself to relax and feel less stressed, you'll end up actually getting better work done in less time and more efficiently, and probably like be better off for it, obviously. So taking time
Yeah.
for you promotes a better work-life balance. So if you want to comment?
Sorry, yeah, just like a quick little one. It's kind of like, sorry, I mentioned this to you earlier, but I completely forgot. It's kind of like the spoon analogy. I don't know. Are you familiar with it?
The spin?
The spoon amount analogy.
Oh yes,
You
yes, yes.
have so many spoons allotted for everything in your life, and if you give away all your spoons and there's none left for you, then you have no more energy.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's your.
No, that's so true. That's so true. Um, yeah, exactly. Taking time for you also can promote that work-life balance. We always talk about this work-life balance, but as students with jobs and lives outside of school requirements, it can be extremely difficult to get this to be at a proper balance. However, by scheduling time for yourself, you will gradually learn to say no. And from personal experience, it does take a little bit of time, but as you work through all these things, you will start to be able to say no, at least for some things, because you definitely start to value your own time more, and then you can walk away when enough is enough for you. And by doing this, you will allow your body and your brain to reset and generally improve your mental health overall. So, learning how to have a good work life balance is also super important to try and develop that now as a student. So then you don't constantly struggle with this throughout your whole life and once you're in your career and such. And taking time for you as an empath and or anyone will improve your relationships by making yourself a priority. It demonstrates to yourself and to others in your life that you value your own time. It is not something to be taken for granted. So if you don't respect your own time, how do you expect anyone else to? Me time will boost your energy levels and make you healthier and happier, which consequently improves your relationship with people around you. Which I think that's super important because it is so true. Like I think people can also start to expect too much from you when you don't say no because, like I know my friends are always like, oh, Meg, you do too much or you don't say no enough and whatnot. But like they can get that into a habit of knowing that you're that person they can go to and you're never going to say no. And they don't necessarily recognize like the negative impact that can have on you. They're just more thinking, oh, she's always the one that's the yes girl, like, so there is a value of like starting to slowly let people in your life realize that you do value your own time, and it is super important to give yourself a break and for them to give yourself a break too and not expect overwhelming amounts from you.
Okay, this is one that I have really, really struggled with in the past and present. But it is, regardless, a really common problem for a lot of people, especially empaths. The act of setting these boundaries can be incredibly difficult for people in general, but this may be even harder for an empath. But regardless, as hard as it might be, boundaries are especially important and are a way of consciously putting ourselves first, as Megan was saying. By actively setting boundaries, we are prioritizing ourselves and our own needs, which can then in turn make us less angry and resentful because these needs are being met. Boundaries can make expectations clear so that people know what to expect from us and how we expect to be treated, which is always important. On the other hand, if boundaries aren't being set, it could be that people don't know, it could possibly mean that people don't know how to act around us, or that we may be left feeling disrespected and neglected, which is literally never a comfortable feeling. As difficult as it may be, setting boundaries does make you more self-aware, and by recognizing your own needs and your own boundaries, you're more likely to be cognizant of others' boundaries when they are set, and are therefore less likely to break them. At the end of the day, you are most important and you have to take care of yourself, and you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yes, exactly. There's a question there about, do you find a connection with being an empath and having anxiety? And is setting boundaries more challenging for empaths? Um, I mean, I definitely, for me, I've always like struggled with having anxiety, and being an empath definitely, I can't say like, I guess in terms of research wise, if there is a direct connection, but I definitely think it is a like a trait, kind of like the similar traits for both, like, or characteristics of both situations are like very similar. And setting boundaries, like, I think it also relates to your anxiety and also being an empath, because, for one, if you kind of have that anxiety perfectionist thought process, you don't want to say no, so you want to always be up to that standard or up to the best that your ability is, and also being anxious about what people think and whatnot, and an empath of like always wanting to do things for people and help your friends and help everyone as much as you can. Like, I think that part is just all those situations. It's hard to set those boundaries and hard to say no. I remember, I mean, it's since like I said, my first year university and second, like, I have been actively thinking about how to say no for myself since then. And I do believe it does get easier and better, but it is something that, I mean, until you believe yourself that you deserve that extra time and you deserve to not always be that person for everyone, it is super hard to say no.
Yeah, and another thing personally that I find, I have social anxiety, so I have a lot of trouble generally with, I'm always terrified of what people think of me, and I don't know how, and I'm always doing everything I can to make them happy. And so I do think that there is a connection between that, simply
Yeah.
because I'm trying to make other people happy so that they don't have this negative perception of me, but simultaneously, it's almost always at the detriment of my own health, mental health, physical health. It is really, really difficult, but just at least being cognizant of it is a really important first step in
Yeah.
order to getting to the point where you can start to set a boundary and start to say no. Even now, I have a really hard time saying no to people. It's only there are a very select few people in my life that I will say no to.
Hmm.
But
No,
it's
I
just,
definitely think that's true.
yeah, it's just about getting your feet wet, I think.
Yeah, like even just starting the conversation and like actively thinking about it like for yourself. And like, I remember whenever like people in my life like, you need to start saying no. Took me years to be like, yeah, I actually do, but I think it'll always creep up on you, and like you recognize at some point, like, okay, this is super important. Maybe not today, I can't say no, but like I need to start actively thinking of how to say no. And just exactly what we said, just getting your feet wet and start thinking about it and how important it is to yourself is the best step, I think, to start.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so journaling. I'm going to talk to you guys about this now. So, third tip is journaling. Sometimes, and I know for myself, I found this really helpful. Sometimes we don't recognize actually what we're dealing with, or what is bothering us and causing us to feel so much stress and overwhelming anxiety until we write it out. So by writing out our daily thoughts, emotions, fears, it can help us become more aware of our triggers and reality. So by tracking your moods and your symptoms, you can recognize potential triggers and also monitor how you are doing and how things are progressing, whether that is in a negative direction or positive direction. And journaling can also help change your outlook on your negative thoughts and behaviors. It is also super helpful for overall well-being and can help you express daily gratitude for the little things in life. The more you positively think about your life, the happier you'll be in your circumstances. So I think that's also super important to not, um, as I'm going to give you a few like little prompts you can try, to not just journal about like, it's super important for empaths to get your thoughts and or anxiety, if you have a lot of anxiety and stuff, to get your thoughts out on a journal, and like, and you can kind of recognize how you're feeling. But their ways, then it stimulates that like happiness, and also stimulating a good way to like see how you're doing, just so then it's not all negative or not all one direction. So yeah, some things I'm going to talk about are specific to empaths, and some are just good for overall well-being and your mental health. So the first one is a journal prompt, and it would be, what do I need to let go of? Or you could write, things I need to release today, or I can release today. So those ones are good because, like, it's sometimes, like we said, it's more just actively thinking about how you're feeling. Like, what is causing me this overwhelming anxiety? what can I do about it? And maybe it's not something directly you can do, but just recognizing that core like reason and trigger that has caused this feeling feels better. And like, even if you can just write it out and write out how you can let go of it or what you need to let go of, whether or not you know how to. And the second one is things that feel heavy. So exactly like triggers and such that are going on in your life, like what feels heavy. I just think there's such a powerful benefit of writing those things out. It's like you're releasing those feelings while you're writing them. And when do I find myself feeling overwhelmed or mentally exhausted or drained? So this will help you become more aware of triggers and what is causing you to feel drained or burned out. And what am I most grateful for right now? So that's a positive one to include, just to kind of, exactly what I said. Think about those little things that you're very happy and thankful for in your life, just so then, you can see the good and not just the triggers. And also another one that's kind of touching on like like bad and good, but writing about what has blank taught me. So something that, it's teaching you something that's kind of making it more of a positive experience. So when I think of that, I think of putting like a bad situation into a good one. So I think, for example, I've written this like a few days ago, how has this second lockdown, what has it taught me? So, instead of just thinking the negative things, like, you're not allowed to go to your lab, you can't do your research, it's postponing things, you can't see your friends, it's hard to be stuck in this situation, but you can kind of think of the little things that are like been beneficial as we kind of went through a few weeks of it. And so I think of like, more time in the morning to do the full routine I want to do and all those extra things like walking in the morning that, usually I'm running at the door, or being able to do a workout at my lunch break, just to get that little boost of productivity for the afternoon where, if I was in the lab, that wouldn't be able to happen. And even like having a healthy dinner at a reasonable hour with the people you live with every night is like something that I don't know if it's relevant to you guys, but like I find doesn't happen that often anymore when we're in normal times because everyone's so busy and different schedules and different times are coming back and forth. So just those little things are super important and positive ways to reflect on like a situation that you went in thinking, oh, this is gonna suck. So it's a good way to think of things sometimes. It definitely helps you appreciate them more.
Okay. Regarding effective nature, this is probably one of my favorite ones. When you feel brain fog or overwhelmed, it's best to leave the task at hand and take time to go for a walk outside in nature or go by the ocean if that's accessible to you. Nature can have a grounding effect and can eliminate these negative emotions we are experiencing and give you more room to wander. I personally really find this helpful and especially beneficial when I'm working from home. I try and find a period of time in my day to go outside for a walk and get fresh air, as it always helps clear my brain from the stress I'm experiencing during the day. And it helps me give a sense of a fresh start to tackle the next task at hand. I also find that when I'm stressed or feeling too many emotions, the peace and quiet of nature and walking on a trail can really help make those bad feelings go away, or at least suppress them for a little while until I'm ready to deal with them. Hiking is something else that I find really, really helpful. It's probably one of my favorite activities simply because it gets me off of my phone. While it isn't physically possible for everyone, hiking I find gets me, like I said, off of my phone, as spending time trekking in nature takes not only a lot of physical energy, but it takes some mental as well. I have to stay focused while hiking so that I don't fall on a rock or a root or something. I have to stay focused while hiking, which means I can't be on my phone. As a student with a desk job, I spend so much time looking at a screen. It is unbelievable. And hiking kind of forces me to get off of my phone and into the fresh air. I'd take a hike or a walk down on Mails River any day before walking around the block. Granted, walking around the block is still super, super helpful because it does get you outside, but it's just a personal preference that I have.
No, that's so true. I find that I like obviously enjoy any time of like any type of walk, but I've been like more meaningfully picking like going to snowshoe at Pippi Park or whatnot, or like any random trail. I feel like there's so many different ones you can do that don't even take like, just a little bit of time in your day. but like it is so different to be either near the ocean or near trees or in the nature. Like I find it's not just like obviously like any walk in fresh air is super helpful, but doing that in the woods and like by trees and ocean, I don't know, it just feels like it's so much better than just the walk itself. Okay, so our last tip is tip 5, and it's mindfulness practice. So sometimes we feel overwhelmed and extremely stressed as students and as empaths, as we are probably keeping in our own worries and the worries of the people around us too. So developing a daily mindful practice can be super helpful and important. This doesn't have to be long or drawn out, but it can be just, 10 minutes, 5 minutes per day in the morning or evening. I find it's super helpful myself. I know it's something that not everyone is interested in, but I think if like you at least allow yourself to be a little bit interested in, you can find it's a lot more beneficial than you might have thought first. So there's many apps you can try for mindfulness or meditation on your mobile device, such as Calm, Headspace, Bloom. I use one that's called Meditopia, and I found that one really nice for sleeping meditations. So, you can try one when you're feeling overwhelmed or have a lot of brain fog and you want to boost your productivity, or when you're going to sleep and you have just a million and one thoughts. Because I feel like when I'm trying to sleep, I just can never just think of one thing. It's everything from before and after my day started. So I find listening to meditation before bed is really helpful to like think of that direct thing, and then you just fall asleep, you don't even realize. So I find also the more often you do this, the more benefits you'll see. So I think it's something obviously like everything, it's practice makes perfect, but you don't have to be perfect. But as time goes on and more time you do this, you'll find it more helpful. And also not just meditation, but mindfulness questions you can ask yourself, that it can make you feel more present and not living of stress of the past or the present, or sorry, the future. So this is similar to journaling, but you don't have to actually write it down. You could just think about them and kind of like think about them to put yourself back into present mindset if you're feeling you're not there. So, asking yourself, how has your mind spent more time today? Is it focusing on the past, the present, or the future? Kind of realizing where your anxiety is there or like where it's focusing on. And what are you inviting into your life with your actions? And what have you learned about yourself recently? So those are kind of 3 questions. Some of them I know they're easy to write down than others, but I think the first one's probably the most important. Also inviting into your life with actions, but the first one's most important. You just need to think for a second. Okay, Megan, what are you like having anxiety about? Where are you spending your time focusing on? Are you thinking constantly all day about what you need to do or what you haven't done to get there? So it's good to draw yourself back into present set. And there's another tip we have. It's just a breathing mindful technique. It's just another kind of example to show you how you can do mindfulness practice. There's many things like this. This is just one, but a breathing exercise. So filling your lungs, clearing your mind is what it's trying to do. And so you do a 4-second inhale, 7-second hold, and then an 8-second exhale, and then repeat. So kind of repeat as many times as you think you need, but it just kind of definitely gets you back into the present for sure. So it's just like 3 different ways to kind of think of your mindfulness practice. It can be meditation, just mindfulness in general, breathing, getting yourself back in the present. But there's lots of different ways you can do it. And again, it doesn't have to be much, just 5-10 minutes a day. It'll go a long way for sure.
Okay, how to get started? We understand that it's not easy to change overnight or to develop new healthy habits, and that it's just not going to happen in a day. I know personally, it took me 23 years to understand that boundaries aren't a bad thing, and they're actually incredibly good, not only for your mental health, but also your interpersonal relationships. The tips and tools that we just mentioned can be incorporated into your daily life gradually, adapting to each small change one at a time. The change obviously won't occur overnight, but eventually it will, and it will be absolutely worth it. Just like everything, the sooner you recognize what is causing you emotional overload or empath burnout, the sooner you can start making changes to live a happier, healthier life. Setting goals for yourself will help you not only get started on this journey, but will also help you maintain it. So try starting a healthy habit, like one of the tips for 21 days. and watch as it becomes easier to include in your daily routine to the point where you start doing it without even thinking, without even needing a reminder.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, this is an empath affirmation. Just an example of something that's a mindfulness practice and you can incorporate into your daily life. So whether you want to write this down or you want to like think and say it out loud or just say it in your head. But I'll go through it once just so you kind of hear it for the first time and see if it resonates with you. So I release what is not mine to feel. I don't have to fix everything for everyone. This too shall pass. I can breathe and I can release. I'm vibrantly healthy and I carry positive energy and thoughts. I believe good things are coming my way. Taking care of my own energy is my priority. Saying no is a healthy way to set boundaries.
Yeah, and just regarding the comment as well in the chat, yeah, it takes a lot of time and energy to figure it out. And well, I mean, even when it came to like my own mental health issues, I didn't realize that I had any until I was like 21, 22 years old, and they were things that have been going on for a really long time. But it was just like a lack of understanding and knowledge, and also the stigma. But when it came to boundaries, I was always taught like in a weird kind of way, it's better to say no, or to not say no. It's better to lie and make a big excuse if you don't want to do something, rather than actively setting the boundary. And that's something I was taught from a really young age, and it's something I'm still really struggling with now. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
understanding what it means to be an empath, and even understanding that being an empath is a thing in and of itself, is a really weird thing to kind of come to on your own. But it really does make life remarkably easier.
And I do agree, like, even I think back to my second year when I was going to my therapist and dealing with, yeah, like empath and anxiety and, perfectionist mindset and stuff like that. And like, I remember it was like the main thing at the end was like, hey, we need to learn how to set boundaries here, Megan. Like, but I think it took me years. Like that was second year in my master's now. And I'm like feeling like now, this day, I can say I'm like starting to learn how to set boundaries, and I've been thinking and trying for like a long time, but it's not something that goes overnight. It's you have to like finally appreciate it for yourself and recognize it yourself because a lot of people can tell you and you can hear them, but until you hear it for yourself and you know for yourself you want that for you, it takes a bit of
Yeah,
time for sure.
absolutely.
It's a work in progress.
Okay, and we just want to also include some mental health resources. Life is hard, pandemics are hard, to say the least. So we thought we would just include these just in case you or someone you know or love or even just a stranger needs them. Um, so we have the 24-hour mental health crisis line, the mobile crisis response team, crisis text line, suicide prevention hotline, the Men's Student Wellness and Counseling Center, St. John's Women's Center. Normally, MenMinds also has a peer support program, but we've had, with COVID and everything, we've had a lot of trouble getting it off the ground. But typically, that is something you can also avail of. But if you or someone you know is experiencing a mental health emergency, please use one of the crisis services we have listed immediately and call 911 if you are in immediate danger or need urgent medical support.
Yeah. Great. Um, Yeah, so I just wanted to say thank you for listening today. I know we both were really happy to be able to talk about this. It's a super important topic. It's not, I feel like, talked about enough, and we kind of like emphasize, not everyone feels this way or has these certain traits. So it's sometimes you feel like you're alone or you're the only person that feels that way. So it's nice to hear about them, learn more, and get some tips, but also just appreciate that there's people like around you that have similar feelings and emotions and opinions, and it helps to have that. So if you have any questions, we'd love to answer them, but again, just thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for your comments as well. They really help like us kind of engage with you in this. But yeah, like Megan said, it's just wonderful to have even somebody who can relate and understand what it's like to take on all of these emotions and not really know what to do with them and not know how to manage them. It really does make it all of it feel less isolating. But thank you. Oh, I thought it was you. Oh,
Me. So yeah,
would you?
it was amazing. And it's just that using the word. So, for someone who's known you, but known this about myself for so long, it's just empowering that you're using the words because, for a long time, people don't use those words. And yeah. So I'm really proud of you. And I learned a lot today because, even at my age, it's still a struggle to realize it's not just sensitivity and it's not just your anxieties. It's bigger than that.
Yeah, and it's also not a bad thing. Like I said, I was taught for so long that it was it's something that I had to stop. I had to control. I had to get it. I had to rein it in. It was such a bad thing, and it was always in my household. I didn't know what to do with it, but then like I said, I read the book, and that book was just like kind of the first step for me to understanding that this is a good thing. You just have to know how to manage it.
It is.
Yeah, I think
I'm an adult, and trying to put boundaries in place even when I have my own home was I had to have help from a psychologist to say, look, this is the conversations you have to have with your family, because they're probably the hardest ones, and they're the hardest ones because they're the ones, like I said, they are the heaviest because you feel so deep with your family because they're your family.
Yeah.
And it is interesting too, like I remember going to my therapist and you work through a lot of things that you want to improve on or get better, or change. And that was one of those things that like she's like, Megan, you can't change those ways like that you are. You're always going to be sensitive and an empath and like want to be there for everyone and have all these emotions. Like you can learn boundaries and like learn all these tools, but you can't change yourself. Like it is a good way to be. It just you need to kind of have a balance. That healthy balance is hard to find, but learning lots of tools and tips are the way around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no, you're not alone. That's the big thing. Like it is something that, before people would be like, oh, what's that? Like the girl from Star Trek, or what do you mean? Like, are you, well, someone said to me, oh, you mean telepathic? I'm like, no, thank you. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can always kind of tell when people don't really get it. They're just like, okay.
Okay, thank you. Moving on.
Yeah.
But you guys did, you answered so many questions for me, and just, it's really nice to use the words that we have out there now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know there's like almost a stigma around the word stigma, but even just like employing them into like your everyday vocabulary and like your diction, it normalizes it and it makes it feel so much less alienating too, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, it's definitely like accepting who you are for like who you are, especially with like yourself. Once you accept yourself, it's also super important.
Yeah, and that's a part of it too. Like accept it because it is a part of you, and you can't like just you can't turn it off. And so like someone telling you to stop is just it doesn't work like that. It's like someone telling you to stop being anxious or stop being depressed. It's not going to happen.
It doesn't happen, and that's the big part of it. And I think I really resonated with me because as you started your presentation, there's been a lot going on, obviously, and I'm sitting here in my house and I don't have a TV on. That it's quiet here, and it's like, nope, no noise, don't no noise yet. I can't have noise. I don't want, even when the cat came, I'm like, nope, no cat, no, not you yet, nope.
Yeah, that's so no, honestly we were saying too when we were developing the presentation, we were like, this is like it was like therapeutic for ourselves because it's nice to take a minute and remember these things and actually talk about them and like even talking about someone that feels the same way. Like we said, not every friend or whatever has those same emotions and same feelings, so it's nice when you can find people that resonate with you. Sure.
And this, and I mean, like I said, I didn't want to have my camera on or my mic on because I didn't want to I wanted to listen and be, I probably should have changed my name too, but you know, and like I said, you know, Kara, I come at it from knowing you. So this is, you know, I felt that in you for so long.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense because I know I was super quiet growing up too. Like
Right.
I didn't like talk to anybody. Like I pretty much just like read my book in the corner and I was
Yeah.
content with like a couple of friends. But yeah, just and also like understanding that like someone else saw that in me is also like super like
Big
reaffirming
time.
kind of. Yeah.
Yep, big time. And but that's the thing. The other piece was how much I could relate to you as a person, even though, you know, like there's 20 years in our difference. I've always been able to relate to you.
Yeah, and I felt that as well. And like
Right.
in a way that I didn't really realize because you never taught me, but in a way,
Right.
like I always felt a really weird connection with you, which is really amazing.
Yeah, it is. Anyway, I didn't mean to rein in on the end of your presentation, but
No. This is
No, that's
the
awesome.
point of this part. But yeah, does anyone have any other questions or anything?
you did
No, this
amazing.
is a fine answer. You guys can hang around. I have to go pick up some equipment from my office, so I am going to have to take off. But thank you very much for tuning in and participating. And Megan, thank you so much for making this so much easier. I say like it's an
Thank you.
acceptance speech, but yeah, thank you, folks.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
I appreciate it.
No problem.
Have a great day.
You
You
too.
too. Bye. Thank you.